This episode is about my experience with private/Catholic school versus public school versus homeschool. Welcome to Mount Mama Family Lifestyle. My name is Mary. I am mom to 6 grown children. 3 of them are married, and my husband and I are currently expecting our 8th grandchild. It is a wonderful and fearful life. I like to share topics like faith, food, fashion, function, and fun. I attended Catholic school for 8 years. Then I switched for grades 9 through 12 to public school. When my 3 oldest were young, they attended public school for the first few years, and then we switched and all the children continued on and finished with homeschool. Currently, I help 2 of my grandchildren with homeschool. Today, I'm talking about my personal experiences, my observations, and my opinions concerning Catholic school, public school, and homeschool. I went to St. Mary Magdalene School in Wilmington, Delaware for grades 1 through 8. I did not go to kindergarten, but that was common in the 70s. My education there was excellent. It was outstanding. I believe it gave me the foundation in education so that I was better able to homeschool my own children. My school days at Catholic school were very demanding. However, I did have a lot of fun and great friends. I usually had homework every night, anywhere from 30 minutes to hours at a time. I was often jealous of my public school friends in the neighborhood who often didn't have any homework. We were required to memorize a lot. To this day, I can still recite many of the definitions of the parts of speech. A predicate noun is a noun in the predicate part of the sentence. It follows a linking verb and it renames the simple subject. A predicate adjective is an adjective in the predicate part of the sentence. It follows a linking verb, it modifies or describes the simple subject. Catholic religion was a core subject in Catholic school in the lower grades. We were drilled, tested, and graded in Catholic religion. It was on our report cards. We were required to memorize many Catholic prayers. Never any Bible verses. Wait, I take that back. We were required to know the Lord's Prayer because that is recited in the Rosary, but no other Bible verses. For the test, we were asked to pull out a blank sheet of paper and we were required to write down the entire prayer from memory. I am very thankful for having learned the actual Catholic doctrine. I was surprised at my public school friends in the neighborhood and then later at public school who didn't know or who didn't care to actually know the Catholic official doctrine. Just as an example of the education aspect in Catholic school, in 7th and 8th grade for our social studies class, we were required to know 30 or so heads of states for 30 countries. No multiple choice or matching either on the test. We were given the name of the country and we had to put the head of state next to that name of the country. And we weren't given a list of these either. We had to figure it out on our own. Keep in mind, this is before the internet. We were responsible to find, learn, and know this material on our own. It was hard. It was difficult. That teacher was amazing. He made class fun and exciting, and he was very popular. And you didn't mess around with him because he could be scary. He was exciting and challenging and a great teacher. There were no snowflakes in Catholic school, at least not for long. One day we had a new girl in school and she had transferred from public school. Well, that day in school, I don't know what we did, but we got a severe scolding from one of our teachers. And the new girl just sat and quietly cried during class. And the next day she was gone. And we all got another severe scolding, explaining to us why it was our fault that the new girl wasn't coming back. When I entered public school, I was probably about 2 grades ahead of my peers. I am very thankful for the education, the excellent education that I received in Catholic school. Looking back, it was very, very hard, but I loved it. I was very excited to be going to public school. There, I had much access to programs and equipment that previously were unavailable to me in private school. I could not wait to use the gymnasium. The parallel bars, the uneven bars, the horse, the rope that you climbed up to the ceiling, although I could never get more than a couple feet up, I loved it. In Catholic school, we did have PE once a week, which usually involved playing some team sport outside on the school grounds or the church grounds. We also had music and we had art once a week. The emphasis there was definitely on core subjects. At public school, I could pursue my love of art. I probably took an art class almost every semester. The cafeteria was something new too. At Catholic school, we were given 15 minutes to eat a sack of lunch that we had brought from home at our desk. Then we were given 30 minutes outside for recess, which usually meant that we played kickball or dodgeball. It was a lot of fun, but not for the faint-hearted. In public school, we had 30 minutes in a real cafeteria and we could buy lunch or bring a sack lunch from home. This was a wonderful time to visit and socialize with friends. I vividly remember my first food fight at public school, which never happened at Catholic school. Food started flying and someone yelled, "Food fight," and everyone got up and scattered to the edges of the cafeteria, and it was all over in less than a minute. In public school, I also had access to many after-school activities. Not because they didn't have them at Catholic school, there was just no transportation provided. They did provide a bus to and from Catholic school, but not for after-school activities. At public school, I could attend these after-school activities because the public schools were close enough to my home that I could walk to and from school. Public school definitely had the advantage in equipment, in the arts, and in sports, but not in core education. I estimate that in my 4 years of public high school, outside of electives, I got about 3 semesters of new material in the core subjects like math, English, science, and history. Everything else I had already learned in Catholic school. Public school was easy peasy. Even with the new material, it was often multiple choice or matching on the test, which made it easier because you only had to be vaguely familiar with the material to still score well on the tests. And the grading system in public school was much easier too. So for example, in Catholic school, 85 to 92% was a B. 93% to 100% was an A. In public school, 80 to 90 or 80 to 89 was a B, 90 to 100 was an A. I would say that both Catholic school and public school had both good and bad teachers. It was the percentage that made the difference. There were more better teachers and less bad teachers in Catholic school compared with the public school system. Public school did have some great teachers, teachers that taught well and challenged you and were awesome. There just weren't as many. When our children were old enough to attend school, I think if we could have found a good private school that we could afford, that would have been our choice. However, money was tight, and we lived in a small rural town, and we did not want to send our children to the Catholic school. We had been previously introduced to homeschool when we lived in Texas. At our church there, the vast majority of parents homeschooled their children. I was impressed with the education, but more impressed with how the children interacted with one another. For example, in that group of kids at that church, there was what I will call, for the purpose of this video, a few children that were misfits. But they were not misfits with this gang of kids. They were totally accepted and included within the group of children. It was my experience that this just did not happen in public or private school. My husband and I began to think of homeschool as an option for our children when they reached school age. However, I was not totally on board like my husband was. I was concerned about homeschooling my children. The time and effort it would take just seemed overwhelming to me. I was concerned that I would just become frustrated and impatient and overly critical with my children, and I did not want that. I wanted to be a loving, encouraging, supportive mother to my children. My husband and I had many thoughtful discussions and prayer on school choice. The primary public school system in our small town had a good reputation. And I thought that if we could send the children there for a couple years and they could learn to read at public school, and then we switched to homeschool, I would be in a better position to teach them how to homeschool with them already knowing how to read. So we agreed to public school for a few years, and then we would consider switching to homeschool. Our three oldest attended public school and they loved it. I believe they had good teachers who really cared for them. However, there were problems. My husband noticed a change in their behavior, especially our daughters, and it was not for the good. He began to adamantly voice his concerns to me that he wanted to homeschool. I noticed a problem with the reading curriculum. They were not teaching phonics. It was more memorization than learning how to read. The children were expected to look at the pictures in the book and then figure out what the word or words were. I was so confused about this. It just didn't make sense to me. I would be doing homework with my oldest son, and I was trying to get him to sound out words that he didn't know. And he would say, "No, Mom, I'm supposed to look at the picture and then guess the word. That's how my teacher told me how to do it." Well, this just didn't make any sense to me. So I made an appointment to go in and talk to his teacher. And sure enough, that was the method of teaching to read. This troubled me. I was concerned about his reading, but I was still not ready to commit to homeschool. I began to pray that the Lord would either change my husband's mind to embrace public school or that he would change my mind to embrace homeschool. And I knew it would take an act of God to change my heart. I was afraid and I needed divine intervention, or at least one of us did. One evening, I was praying about it in the shower, and the Lord just softened my heart to homeschool. He gave me a willingness to agree and to commit to homeschooling our children. I basically had to teach my two oldest children how to read at home, even though they had finished second grade in public school. I was pleasantly surprised at how easy it was to implement my reading curriculum, which was based on phonics. The reading material worked slowly and methodically, and teaching the children to read at home was not what I had anticipated. It was pretty easy, and all the children excelled at reading. The same with math, English, history, and science. Yes, it was a big commitment and a lot of work on my part, but big surprise, it did not take as much time as I thought it would. We were done with all the elementary level classes in 2 hours or less. This included teaching several grades, but it did not include electives like taekwondo, which I counted as PE, or music lessons, or, art. But we were able to finish our core subjects in about 2 hours. This was amazing to me because when I had 3 children in public school, I was spending about 2 hours in the evening doing homework with them. So basically, they were going to school all day, but I was the one teaching them at home in the evenings. Now I was homeschooling and we were getting all their work done in 2 hours in the morning with no work in the evenings. We did follow state laws concerning homeschooling, and I did think they were reasonable laws. For high school, the school days were longer. In high school, we needed 4 to 6 hours, including breaks, to get through our school day. The only class that I had trouble with was chemistry. I knew I could not do the chemistry equations, but I didn't do the chemistry equations when I was in high school because I couldn't figure it out then. So we went through the entire chemistry book in high school and we did what we could. I figured this had worked for me in high school and I passed, so it would work for my children. All the children did very well in math and they excelled in language arts, which is more of my strong point. I was also happy to be learning science and history with them. I was learning things with them that I had never learned or I'd never cared to learn, and I found it very interesting. In Catholic school, the pilgrims were set forth as people to be highly admired and respected. Imagine my surprise when in homeschool we read Bradford's Plymouth Plantation, and in the very first chapter, Governor Bradford calls the Pope the Antichrist. I never got that memo at Catholic school. When we lived in Missouri, we were very active with our children in our local church. We also had a huge homeschool group, and that was such a blessing. We did a lot of activities with them, and we also belonged to a karate school. The whole family took taekwondo lessons, and that was an amazing part of our education. Our oldest son expressed a desire to play football, and we did consider sending him to public high school so that he could play football on a team. But in 9th grade, he got a very severe injury. And when 10th grade rolled around, he could walk, but he still could not run. He made a complete recovery, And for 11th and 12th grade, we gave him the choice to attend public school with the hope that he would be able to play football on the team. Long story short, he chose to give up football and continue on with homeschool because going to public school would mean that he would miss our annual family vacation because it would be during school hours. So he would be at home, probably staying with his grandma, going to school while the rest of the family was on vacation. For the last semester of our second oldest son's senior year in high school, we gave him the choice to continue with homeschool or go to GED classes to prepare to take that test. He chose the GED classes. He passed the practice test on the first try, but he did stay in the classes in order to try and get a better score on the GED. I had been concerned that maybe there were some holes in his education and those GED classes would help fill the void. After many discussions with him about what went on in those classes and about his teacher, I came to the conclusion that there were no holes in his education, that he had learned well, and I had been worried for nothing. He had received a good education at home. When we moved to Colorado, we did not have a similar large social network. It took us years to find and settle in a local church. And I could not find a homeschool group that I felt comfortable with. I did find a few extracurricular activities for the two younger children, but I do feel like they may have missed out. I wish I had tried harder to find more for them, but we did have a close-knit family life. We always read a lot and had many hearty family discussions about the books, about politics, about science and history, current events, faith in the Bible, religions, many subjects. One time we missed watching a live presidential candidate debate because we were all attending one of the girls' piano recitals. And on the way home, Zach says, "We missed a live debate because we went to a concert. That makes us uninformed voters." It was funny. It was a joke. We are going to watch the recorded debate and have a good discussion about it. This is one thing that I really believe that we did well. All the books that we read together, all the family discussions, all the family debates, I believe it really helped to develop strong critical thinking skills in the children, and you can do that whatever school choice you decide upon. Two of our children went on to achieve their bachelor's degree, and one of those also achieved her master's. Actually, I think she has 3 master's degrees. Another 2 achieved their associate's degrees, and our 2 oldest are well-trained tradesmen in the plumbing profession. As far as I can tell, 4 of the 6 children would consider or strongly consider homeschooling their own children if and when they have them. I am very thankful that we chose homeschool for our family, and I do believe it was the best decision. I also believe my Catholic school elementary education was much better than it would have been if I had gone to public school. This is based on my conversations that I had with my public school friends who lived in my neighborhood and with my own experience in public high school. Like I said, when I entered 9th grade in public school, I was at least 2 years ahead, and I was placed in all the high achieving classes. Also, high school was pretty much a breeze because I had already learned most of the material. I very much doubt current Catholic school education is what it used to be. I babysat some of my nieces and a nephew who were attending Catholic school in the small town where we were at in Missouri, and I had the opportunity to look at their books, visit their classrooms, and talk to their teachers because I used to pick them up after school. I also had discussions with them about what they were learning in Catholic school. In my opinion, at that time in the 90s, the one Catholic school that they were attending was close to public school. One example, my niece told me they were studying Halloween in school. I was pretty surprised to hear this because the history of Halloween, in my opinion, is steeped in Catholic superstition. Halloween, All Hallowed Eve, or All Holy Eve, is the eve or night before All Saints' Day, which is a holy day of obligation in the Roman Catholic Church. And Halloween has a pretty dark history. Could they really be discussing this in Catholic grade school? I found this hard to imagine. So I asked my niece, "What are you studying? What do you mean you're studying Halloween in school?" She replied, "Oh, We're weighing and measuring pumpkins. Okay, that made sense. And that's all fine. It's profitable. It can be a math lesson if you're in second grade. But in sixth grade, seriously? And not only that, she thought she knew about Halloween because she had studied it in school. She knew very little about Halloween. If you are seriously considering Catholic school or private school, I would recommend a deep dive into their philosophy and their curriculum to see if it aligns with your views and your educational standards before you spend all that money. I don't have a tremendous amount of good to say about public school. I did have many good experiences there and several great teachers, but the education was not up to speed. My three oldest who attended public school loved it, but there was a serious problem with their reading program. And reading and learning to love reading is so important. Homeschooling is a huge commitment in time, energy, and money. It is very rewarding and also very taxing. But in some ways, it was not as difficult as I thought it would be. I do not think I'm bragging when I say that I believe our children received an excellent education, far superior to what they would have received if they had gone to public school. I have no regrets in committing to homeschooling. I do regret that I did not do more for the two youngest to have more extracurricular activities for them. I'm trying to make an honest assessment, so I think it's important to reiterate that 4 of my 6 children homeschool or intend to homeschool, which means that 2 of them would consider a different option. I am very happy and honored to be helping with homeschool with 2 of my grandsons. They are both in elementary school grades, and our day consists of 9:15 to 12:15, and that includes a 15-minute break for breakfast and a 15-minute recess break. This includes doing 1 extra core subject class every day because on Mondays I don't homeschool with them. They go with their mother to an all-day homeschool co-op where they take music lessons and choir lessons, and their mother does some volunteer work during the day while she's there with them. This 9:15 to 12:15 allows me to work a 1 to 10 p.m. work shift. Their mother does an amazing job of keeping them involved with extracurricular activities, such as field trips and classes with homeschool groups. Their curriculum is very advanced. I would say it is 2 years ahead of what I see in public school, and they are getting their core subjects done in the morning. And that's it. I could give a lot more examples and tell a lot more stories, but believe it or not, I'm trying to keep this short and to the point. I hope this has been helpful in helping you to decide about school choice. And thanks for watching till the end, and please, please subscribe.